The headlights cut through the dark at 5:47 a.m., too early for anyone but thieves or trouble. I was in the workshop, wrench in hand, breath clouding in front of my face while the diesel heater coughed warmth into cold air. The frost on the window glass looked like spider webs, delicate and wrong. Ruby's truck door opened. Then I heard it. My wife's voice, slurred and small, saying a name that wasn't mine. "Derek, don't tell Marv." Derek said. I dropped the wrench. It rang against concrete like a bell nobody wanted to hear. By the time I reached the driveway, neighbors' porch lights were flickering on across the road. Diane couldn't stand. One shoe missing, mascara streaked down her face like she'd been crying, or pretending to. Ruby's hands shook as she tried to hold her mother upright. "Dad, I need help." My daughter wouldn't look at me. That told me everything. I carried Diane inside. She smelled like vodka and cheap perfume, sweet and wrong, the kind of scent that lingers in places it shouldn't. Ruby stood in the doorway, hand over her mouth, and I saw something fall from Diane's purse onto the frozen driveway. A phone, screen glowing. I bent down. Ice crystals had already formed on the glass. The text preview was short. April 15th, baby. Then it's ours. All of it. I didn't wake her. I sat in the workshop until sunrise, reading every text, every lie, every plan to take my land. Coffee was ready by 6:30. 2 cups, same as every morning for 42 years. I poured one and left the other empty on the counter. Diane was still asleep upstairs, or pretending to be. The house smelled like old coffee grounds and something sour I didn't want to name. Ruby's truck pulled up just after 7. She had her own key, but knocked anyway, soft and uncertain, like she was visiting a stranger's house. "Dad, come in." We sat at the kitchen table. I pushed scrambled eggs onto 2 plates, but neither of us touched them. The forks scraped against ceramic, too loud, in the quiet. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you about last night." I stopped her. "I already know." Her face crumpled, not crying, just collapsing inward the way a barn does when the beams finally give out. She was 38 years old and looked 12. I tried to stop her. I told her to come home. She said, Ruby's voice caught. She said Derek was taking her somewhere better. I pulled Diane's phone from my jacket pocket and slid it across the table. Ruby stared at it like it might explode. "Read." She scrolled. Her jaw tightened with each swipe. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Hidden Creek Development. That's Derek Hollis's company." "I know. Dad." She set the phone down carefully, like it was evidence. "Mom's working for him, his office, bookkeeping." The kitchen went quiet, except for the refrigerator's hum and the wind rattling the window frames. Outside, frost still clung to the fence posts, white and stubborn in the morning light. "Show me," I said. We walked out to the workshop. My Saturday ritual, the one I'd kept for 30 years. Check the equipment, oil the tractor parts, make sure everything that could break was still holding together. Ruby had come along since she was 6, handing me wrenches and asking questions about carburetors. She didn't ask questions now. I laid Diane's phone on the workbench next to my thermos. The screen was still lit, texts glowing like accusations. Ruby stood close, reading over my shoulder. The smell of motor oil mixed with her shampoo, something floral I couldn't name. "April 15th, she read aloud. "That's 8 weeks from now. It's a loan deadline." I scrolled to an earlier message. "Derek needs my property for his development. 40 acres. He's been working on her since December." Ruby's finger hovered over the screen, then tapped. A photo loaded. Blueprints for Hidden Creek Estates. 32 homes where my back 40 used to be. Swimming pool where my grandfather planted apple trees in 1947. "He's already drawn it up," she whispered. "He's already sold it." I pointed to another message. "That's a deposit confirmation. $15,000, wired to an account I didn't know existed." Ruby pulled out her phone, the newer kind that does everything, and started typing. Her thumbs moved fast, the way young people's do, like the device was part of her hand. "What are you doing?" "My job." She was a CPA at the regional bank, knew her way around numbers the way I knew my way around carburetors. "If Mom opened an account, I can find it. Give me a minute." The wind picked up outside. I could hear it whistling through the gaps in the barn siding, the same sound it had made every winter since I was a boy. I touched the tractor hood, a 1945 John Deere my grandfather bought used. Cold metal under my palm, solid and real. Ruby's screen lit up her face in the dim workshop. Found it. Account opened December 10th. First deposit, $15,000 from Hidden Creek Consulting LLC. Memo line says, bookkeeping services rendered. She wasn't hired, I said. She was paid. Ruby's voice cracked when she spoke again. Dad, there's more. Mom signed something, a quitclaim deed, dated January 2nd. I never signed any deed. I know. She turned the phone toward me. The signature looked like mine, close enough to fool someone who didn't know better. He forged it, or she helped him practice. I set down my coffee. It had gone cold anyway. Outside, a crow called from the fence line, sharp and mean, the kind of sound that makes dogs nervous. Ruby pushed scrambled eggs around her plate earlier. Now she stood in my workshop holding evidence of my wife's betrayal like she was holding a dead thing. Dad, there's something I need to tell you about last night. I stopped her. I already know. She looked at me, really looked, the way she used to when she was small and needed to know if the thunder would hurt us. Ruby, I said, your mother's working for him, his office, bookkeeping. And just like that, affair became conspiracy. Sunday morning, the church parking lot smelled like exhaust and old coffee from the fellowship hall. I arrived early, the way I always did, and parked in my usual spot by the oak tree. The gravel crunched under my boots, still frozen in the shade, soft where the sun hit. Diane didn't come with me. She arrived 20 minutes later. I watched through the rearview mirror as Derek Hollis's silver truck dropped her off 2 blocks down. She walked the rest of the way in heels too high for gravel, carrying her Bible like a prop. Lorna Hastings saw it too. She ran the feed store and knew everyone's business before they did. Her eyes met mine across the parking lot. She didn't wave. Inside, Diane sat on the opposite side of the sanctuary, third pew from the front, right side, where the winter sun came through the stained glass and made everything look holier than it was. I sat in my usual spot, back left, near the exit. Pastor Gene's sermon was about forgiveness. I didn't hear most of it. I was watching my wife's shoulders, the way she held herself stiff and separate, like she was afraid I'd walk over and say something. I wouldn't. Not here. She left during the final hymn, stood up while everyone else was singing about grace, grabbed her coat and walked out. Her heels clicked against the old wood floors, each step louder than the organ. When the service ended, Pastor Gene caught my elbow in the fellowship hall. He was younger than me by 15 years, still believed talking could fix things. Marv, we need to talk about marriage counseling. I poured myself coffee from the ancient percolator. It smelled burnt and tasted worse, but it was warm. Gene, I said, we need to talk about fraud. His face went pale. Someone behind us dropped a paper plate. Diane came home that evening while I was fixing the fence line. The wire cutters felt heavy in my hands, awkward in a way they never used to. My fingers were numb despite the gloves. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching me work. The sun was going down behind the barn, turning everything orange and cold. We need to talk, she said. Then talk. She came down the steps slowly, testing each one like it might give out. When she got close, I could smell that perfume again. Not the kind she used to wear, something expensive, something Derek bought her. I know you went through my phone. I twisted the fence wire tight, pulled until it sang. Then you know I know. Marv, don't. I set down the cutters, looked at her for the first time in 2 days. She'd lost weight. Her face looked harder, sharper, like someone had filed down all the soft parts. Just tell me why, she laughed. Not the kind that means something's funny. The kind that means something's broken, beyond fixing. Because I'm 64 years old and I'm tired. Her voice shook. Tired of waking up in the same house, cooking the same meals, watching you oil the same tractor every Saturday like it's a religion. That tractor's older than you. Somebody's got to maintain it. Derek sees me, Marv. He looks at me like I'm still... She stopped, wrapped her arms tighter around herself. Like I'm still worth something. And I don't? You see the farm. You see your grandfather's legacy. You see 40 acres that need protecting. Her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. You haven't seen me in 10 years. I wanted to argue, wanted to list every morning I made coffee, every dinner I sat through, every time I asked about her day and actually listened. But standing there in the cold, with the fence wire cutting into my gloves, I realized she might be right. I'd been so busy keeping everything standing, I forgot to notice what was already falling. So, you're leaving, I said. I want a divorce. She said it fast, like she'd been practicing. Derek says I'm entitled to half the property. Marital asset. My lawyer agrees. The wind picked up. I could hear it moving through the bare trees, that empty winter sound that goes straight through your coat. Your lawyer? I filed on Friday. Something hot and sharp moved through my chest. Not rage, worse. The kind of cold clarity that comes when you finally stop pretending. Diane, my voice came out steady, too steady. This land has been in my family 3 generations. My grandfather bought it in 1942. My father kept it through the drought in '68. I'll die before I let some developer with a fake smile and a forged signature take it. It's half mine, she said. Legally. Then I guess we'll see what a judge says about fraud. She went pale. What are you talking about? I pulled the printed text from my jacket pocket. 3 pages, folded neat. Handed them to her without a word. She didn't open them. She knew what they were. You can't prove anything, she whispered. I don't have to prove everything, just enough. She moved into the spare bedroom that night. I moved $47,000 from our joint account into Ruby's name before midnight. War doesn't start with guns. It starts with paperwork. Thursday meant checkers at the diner. Clay Bridger and I had been playing every week since we got back from Vietnam in '71. Same booth, same pieces, red for him, black for me, same unwritten rule, loser buys the pie. Clay was already there when I arrived, coffee steaming in front of him. He looked up when the door chimed, and I saw something in his face I hadn't seen in years. The old sheriff look. The one that meant he already knew why I was there. Marv. Clay. I slid into the booth. The vinyl seat cracked under me, familiar and worn. The diner smelled like bacon grease and maple syrup, comfort food that couldn't comfort anything anymore. He moved a pawn without looking at the board. Heard Diane moved into the spare room. News travels fast. Lorna mentioned it at the feed store. He took a sip of coffee. The cup rattled slightly when he set it down. His hands weren't as steady as they used to be, but his eyes were sharp. Also heard Derek Hollis has been driving through town in that fancy truck, smiling too much. I moved my piece. The checker clicked against the board. He forged my signature on a quit claim deed. Clay went still, not surprised still, cop still, the kind of quiet that comes before someone gets arrested. You got proof? Texts, bank records, Ruby's pulling more. I looked up at him. And I need a favor. Name it. Background check. Derek Hollis. Everything you can find. Clay reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Set it on the table between us, next to the checkerboard. The card was cream-colored, expensive looking. Patricia Keene, family law attorney. I fight dirty so you don't have to. Already made a call, Clay said. She's expecting you Monday morning. My throat got tight. Couldn't speak for a second. Just stared at that card, at my old friend's weathered hands, at the coffee stains on the table that had been there since Carter was president. Clay. Marv. He jumped 3 of my pieces in one move, something he never did. You pulled me out of a rice paddy in '68 when I couldn't walk. I'm pulling you out of this mud now, that's how it works. The waitress brought pie, apple, still warm, and set it in front of him. He pushed it toward me instead. You won this one, he said. First time in 2 years he'd let me win. I picked up my fork but couldn't eat, just sat there with the pie steaming between us and the checker pieces scattered like small casualties. Clay leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head. Derek Hollis. I'll run him tonight. But Marv, there's something else you should know. What? His brother works at the county recorder's office. Bryce Hollis. Different animal entirely. Clay's voice dropped lower. Bryce and Derek don't speak. Haven't in years. Might be someone worth talking to. I nodded, filed that away. One more thing, Clay said. He pulled a small notebook from his shirt pocket, flipped it open. Derek applied for a county variance 3 weeks ago. Needs approval by March 31st to break ground on Hidden Creek development. So he's on a deadline. Tight one. And if that variance doesn't go through, Clay smiled, just a little. Well, banks don't like lending money for projects that can't get built. The diner door opened, letting in cold air and the smell of diesel from the trucks outside. Someone's radio was playing country music, something old about losing and leaving. I picked up the attorney's card, turned it over in my fingers. The edges were sharp. Thank you, I said. Clay moved his king across the board. Thank me when it's over. Sunday morning, Ruby came early. She had a laptop and 3 folders full of papers, the kind with columns and numbers that made my eyes hurt. We spread everything across the kitchen table, same table where we used to do her homework, where I taught her long division, and she taught me that being patient was harder than being right. Dad, she opened the first folder. I found Mom's account. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the paper, clean and official and wrong. Outside, a cardinal was singing in the apple tree, bright and sharp against the gray sky. Ruby's finger traced down a column of numbers. December 10th, first deposit, $15,000. Sender, Hidden Creek Consulting, LLC. Memo, bookkeeping services rendered. What kind of bookkeeping is worth $15,000? The kind that isn't bookkeeping. She flipped to another page. Look at this, January 5th, another payment, $5,000. Memo, document preparation. My hands were shaking. I put them flat on the table to make them stop. She helped him, I said. Or he paid her to look the other way while he forged your signature. Ruby's voice was steady, professional. Her CPA voice. But her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying in the truck before she came in. Either way, Dad, this is evidence. Fraud. Conspiracy. The attorney Clay mentioned. She can use this. I stared at the numbers. 42 years of marriage, reduced to deposits and memo lines. Evidence. Proof. Ammunition. Ruby reached across the table and put her hand over mine. We're going to keep the land, she said. Not you're going to keep it. We're. I looked at my daughter, 38 years old, divorced herself 3 years back, building a life in town that didn't need this farm. And here she was, sitting at my kitchen table on a Sunday morning, digging through her mother's betrayal like an accountant mining for gold. Ruby, my voice came out rough. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She squeezed my hand once, then let go. Went back to the numbers. Someone's got to keep the land alive. She didn't say when this is over. She said keep the land alive. Present tense, ongoing, like she was already planning to stay. The cardinal kept singing outside. The coffee kept steaming. And somewhere in those columns of numbers, my daughter had found what I needed. Not proof that my wife loved me, but proof that I could fight back. Derek Hollis's office was downtown, squeezed between the hardware store and a bar that opened too early. The sign above the door said Hidden Creek Development, building your future. Through the window, I could see cheap furniture trying to look expensive, fake plants, a girl at the front desk who looked barely old enough to vote. I went on a Tuesday, mid-morning, when I knew Diane would be there. The girl looked up when I walked in. Her smile was automatic, practiced. Can I help you? I'm here to see Derek Hollis. Do you have an appointment? No. Her smile faltered. She glanced toward the back office, then at me, then at her computer screen like it might tell her what to do. I'm Marvin Callahan, I said. He'll know who I am. Recognition flickered across her face. The smile died completely. She picked up the phone, pressed a button, whispered something I couldn't hear. The office smelled like new carpet and cologne, chemical sweet, the kind that covered things up instead of cleaning them. 30 seconds later, Derek came out. 42 years old, dressed like someone trying to prove something. Expensive watch, boots that had never seen mud, hair gelled back so tight it looked painted on. He smiled, wide and white and empty. Marv, great to see you. He stuck out his hand like we were friends. Come on back, let's talk. I didn't shake his hand, just followed him into his office. He closed the door behind us. The smile stayed on, but his eyes changed. Harder, colder, like someone flipping a switch. So, he sat on the edge of his desk, casual, practiced. What can I do for you? I pulled the printed deed from my jacket pocket, unfolded it slowly, set it on his desk. You can tell me why my signature's on a document I never signed? Derek glanced at the paper, didn't pick it up, didn't have to. He knew what it was. That's a quitclaim deed, he said. Standard paperwork for property transfer. Your wife brought it in, said you'd both agreed. I never agreed to anything. Well, he shrugged, still smiling. Maybe you should talk to your wife about that. The office was small, no windows. The walls were covered with development photos, subdivisions where farms used to be, swimming pools where fields used to grow corn, trophies made from other people's land. Here's what I know, I said. My voice came out steady, quiet. You seduced my wife. You paid her $15,000. And you forged my signature on a legal document so you could steal 40 acres my family's worked for 3 generations. Derek's smile finally cracked. Just a little, like ice starting to give. Prove it. I leaned forward. I don't have to prove everything. Just enough to make your loan officer nervous. Just enough to delay your variance approval. Just enough to make April 15th come and go without the property you promised your investors. His jaw tightened. The smile was gone now. You're bluffing. Try me. He stood up fast. The desk chair rolled backward and hit the wall. When he spoke again, his voice was different, lower, meaner, the real voice under all that polish. Listen, old man, you're going to sign, one way or another. Either you do it voluntarily and walk away with something, or your wife takes half in the divorce and I buy her out for pennies. He stepped closer. I could smell his cologne, thick and sharp. Either way, I get that land. The only question is whether you're smart enough to make it easy. And if I'm not, then you lose it in court, lose your wife, lose your dignity. He smiled again, but it wasn't the practiced one anymore. This one showed teeth. Lose everything you spent your whole sad life building, your choice. I stood up, picked up the deed, folded it back into my pocket. I'll see you in court, I said. You can't afford court. Maybe not, but I can afford a lawyer who likes to fight. I walked to the door, stopped, turned back. And Derek, Clay Bridger says hello. His face went pale, just for a second, just long enough. I walked out without touching him, not because I'm a good man, because Clay taught me, 50 years ago, that documentation beats violence every time. Saturday morning, I went to the feed store. Needed grain for the chickens, salt blocks for the cattle I didn't have anymore. Mostly I needed to get out of the house, away from the spare bedroom where my wife slept like a stranger. Lorna was behind the counter, reading glasses perched on her nose, working on inventory. The store smelled like leather and seed corn and dust. Good smells, honest smells, the kind that made you remember what work was supposed to feel like. Morning, Marv. Lorna. She rang up my order without asking questions. Knew better, but when she handed me the receipt, she slipped me an extra bag of layer pellets. On the house, she said. Lorna, don't. She looked at me over those reading glasses. Just don't. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in, tall, late 40s, wearing county employee coveralls. He had Derek's eyes, but none of Derek's shine. Tired eyes, honest eyes. He walked straight to me. Mr. Callahan? Yes. Bryce Hollis. He stuck out his hand. Rough palm, working hands. I need to talk to you, loud enough for everyone to hear. The store went quiet. Lorna stopped writing. Two farmers by the seed display turned to watch. Someone's radio was playing softly in the back, crackling with static and weather reports. Bryce's voice carried through the whole store. My brother Derek forged documents on the Hendricks farm 3 years ago. Got away with it. Before that, the Morrison place. Before that, old widow Chen's property. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. Thick, official. Don't let him do it to you. He handed me the envelope. Our fingers touched. His were cold, like he'd been standing outside working up courage. County records, he said. 3 quitclaim deeds. 3 elderly landowners. 3 foreclosures within 18 months. All of them have my brother's signature. All of them followed the same pattern. Someone behind me gasped. Lorna, or maybe one of the farmers. The sound seemed to echo in the small space. Why? I asked. Because I'm tired of cleaning up his messes. Bryce's jaw was tight. And because your farm is number 4, someone needs to stop him. He turned and walked out. The bell chimed again, the door closed. The store stayed silent except for that radio static and the sound of my heart beating too loud in my ears. I opened the envelope. Right there. Couldn't wait. My hands shook. Inside, 3 quitclaim deeds. 3 names I recognized. Hendricks, Morrison, Chen. All of them dead now or moved away. All of them lost their land. All of them signed documents with Derek's name at the bottom, neat and official and fake, and under each deed a foreclosure notice. Dates matching perfectly, April 15th, April 15th, April 15th, the same deadline in the text on Diane's phone. Lorna came around the counter, stood next to me, reading over my shoulder. She smelled like hand soap and coffee, familiar and safe, everything Derek wasn't. Oh, Marv, she whispered. The farmers were still watching. 6 people total in the feed store, 6 witnesses to my private shame becoming public knowledge. I closed the envelope. My face felt hot. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Thank you, Lorna, I said. Didn't know what else to say. She touched my arm, just once. We're with you. I walked out carrying grain and salt blocks and evidence. The morning was cold, February wind that cut through your coat and found every gap. My truck was parked by the post office. As I loaded the bags into the bed, I saw faces in windows, watching, knowing, the whole town knew now. My wife was sleeping with a con man, my farm was next on his list, and everyone I'd ever known had just watched me receive charity and evidence in the same moment. I drove home with the envelope on the passenger seat, the one Bryce Hollis handed me like a gift I never wanted. My farm was number 4. Sunday morning came cold and clear. I woke at 5, same as always, and went to the workshop. The ritual didn't change just because everything else had. Some things you keep doing because stopping would mean admitting defeat. The tractor was where I'd left it. 1945, John Deere, green paint faded to something softer, more honest. My grandfather bought it used in 47, paid it off over 3 years of tobacco money. My father kept it running through the drought of 68. Now it was mine to maintain. I pulled out the oil can. The metal was cold enough to sting through my gloves. Outside, frost covered everything. The fence posts, the truck windshield, the dead grass that would turn green again in another month if I was still here to see it. The workshop smelled like diesel and old wood and coffee grounds from the thermos I'd brought out. Good smells, working smells. I was checking the carburetor when Ruby's truck pulled up the drive. She got out carrying her own thermos, the blue one I'd given her for Christmas when she was 16. She'd kept it all these years. Dented now, the paint chipped, but still holding heat. She didn't say anything, just came into the workshop and stood next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. The heater was running, but it couldn't keep up with the cold. Our breath made clouds in the early light. "Hand me the 3/8 wrench," I said. She knew which one without asking. We'd done this 1,000 times. We worked in silence for a while. The only sounds were metal on metal, the wind outside, the occasional caw of a crow. Ruby tightened bolts I couldn't quite reach anymore. My hands weren't as steady as they used to be. After 20 minutes, she poured coffee from her thermos into the cap, handed it to me. "Dad." "Yeah." "I'm moving back to the farm." She said it simple. No question mark at the end. "When this is over, someone needs to keep the land alive." I stopped working, set down the wrench, looked at her. She was staring at the tractor, not at me. Her jaw was set the way it used to get when she was 12 and determined to prove something. "Ruby, you have a job in town, an apartment, a life that doesn't smell like diesel and manure. I have a desk and a mortgage." She poured herself coffee in a cup she'd brought from the house. "This is a life. This is—" Her voice caught. "This is home." The workshop was quiet except for the heater's rattle. Outside, the sun was coming up over the back 40, turning the frost orange and gold. "Your mother, Mom made her choice." Ruby's voice went hard. "I'm making mine." She took a sip of coffee. Steam rose from the cup and disappeared into cold air. "I've been thinking about it since we found those bank statements," she said. "Maybe before that, maybe since you taught me how to drive the tractor when I was 14. She finally looked at me. 3 generations, Dad. Grandpa to you to me. That's what this is supposed to be." My throat got tight. Couldn't speak for a second. "It's hard work," I said finally. "I know. It's lonely. Not if we're both here." She set down her coffee and picked up the oil can. Started working on the tractor's other side, moving with the kind of certainty that comes from muscle memory. "Besides," she said, "someone's got to make sure you don't give up." "I'm not giving up." "Good." She smiled, just a little, sad but real. "Because I need you to teach me about permits and variance applications and all the things Grandpa taught you. If I'm going to keep this place running after—" She stopped. Didn't finish. Didn't have to. "After I'm gone." That's what she meant. After I'm too old or too dead to do it myself. I picked up my coffee. It had gone lukewarm, but I drank it anyway. Tasted like hope and engine oil in the thermos Ruby had kept for 22 years. "When this is over," I said, "we'll start with the spring planting. You remember how to work the cedar? You'll remind me." Outside, a cardinal started singing in the apple tree, bright red against gray branches, the kind of color that makes you believe in better days. "Ruby," I said, "thank you." She didn't answer, just kept working on the tractor, oil-stained hands moving with purpose, breath clouding in the cold, her thermos sitting next to mine on the workbench like a promise. That thermos of coffee tasted like hope. Tuesday afternoon, I drove to the attorney's office. Patricia Keene worked out of a renovated house on Maple Street, the kind of place that used to be someone's home before it became something official. Her secretary showed me into a room with law books and diplomas and a desk that looked like it had survived wars. Patricia was 50-ish, gray-haired, wearing a suit that meant business. She shook my hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. "Mr. Callahan, Clay speaks highly of you." "He speaks highly of you, too." "He should." She gestured to a chair. "I've won 17 cases against men like Derek Hollis." I sat. The chair was old leather, cracked but comfortable. The office smelled like paper and furniture polish and the kind of coffee that costs too much. I showed her everything: the texts, the bank statements, Bryce's envelope with the county records, the forged quitclaim deed. She reviewed each page slowly, making notes on a yellow legal pad, her pen scratched in the quiet. Outside, traffic moved past on Maple Street, ordinary people doing ordinary things while my life got sorted into evidence. "This is good," she said finally. "Very good. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy. We can file criminal charges, civil suit for damages, and—" she looked up at me. "We can file alienation of affection." "What's that?" "A lawsuit against the person who destroyed your marriage. It's rare. Most states don't allow it anymore. But we're in one of the few that does." She tapped her pen against the desk. "If we can prove Derek intentionally seduced your wife to gain access to your property, you can sue him for emotional damages and financial losses." "I don't want money," I said. "I want my land." "You'll get both." She leaned back in her chair. "But Mr. Callahan, I need to be clear about something. This is going to get ugly. Very public, very expensive, and there's a good chance your wife faces criminal charges as an accomplice." "I know." "Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Ruby in the workshop, about the thermos she'd kept for 22 years, about 3 generations of Callahans working land that Derek Hollis wanted to pave over for swimming pools. "Yes," I said. Patricia nodded, started writing. "Derek's loan approval is contingent on acquiring your property. His deadline is April 15th, tax day. That's 8 weeks from now." She looked up. "We need to file everything, but I recommend we don't serve papers until early May." "Why wait?" "Because Derek will be desperate by then. Desperate men make mistakes." She smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who'd won 17 times before. "And there's something else. The county farm equipment auction is May 3rd, is that correct?" "Yes." "Do you know the auctioneer?" "I am the auctioneer." Her smile widened. "Mr. Callahan, how would you feel about selling some truth that day in front of 200 witnesses?" I understood what she was asking. Not a quiet settlement, not a private victory, public exposure, community justice, the kind of ending where everyone knows who lied and who stood their ground. "I'd feel just fine about that," I said. She extended her hand again. "Then, let's get to work." I shook it. Her grip was still strong, still certain. Outside, the sun was breaking through February clouds. Not spring yet, but coming. The call came on a Sunday evening just after dark. Pastor Gene's voice on the phone, apologetic and careful, the way people sound when they're delivering bad news they wish they didn't have to deliver. "Marv, I need to talk to you about something." I was sitting in the living room, watching the news, with the sound off. Diane was upstairs in the spare bedroom. We'd been living like ghosts in the same house for a month, passing each other in hallways, never speaking. "What is it, Gene?" He cleared his throat. "Diane came to see me yesterday, with some concerns." I turned off the TV. The room went quiet except for the furnace kicking on, warm air moving through old vents. "What kind of concerns?" "She says you've been threatening her, hiding money, refusing counseling." He paused. "She filed a formal complaint with the church elders, Marv. We're required to mediate." My hand tightened around the phone. "And you believe her?" "I believe we need to talk, all 3 of us, in a safe space." His voice got softer. "I'm trying to help, Marv. But if you refuse mediation, it looks like you're hiding something." I closed my eyes, saw the play clearly. Derek coaching Diane, building a narrative, unstable husband, financial abuse, isolation, laying groundwork for the divorce, making me look dangerous so she looks sympathetic. "When?" I asked. "Next Sunday, after service, conference room. I'll be there." "Marv," he hesitated. "Come with an open heart. This could be a chance for reconciliation." I hung up, without answering. Reconciliation. Like 42 years, and a forged deed could be fixed with an open heart and some prayer. I called Patricia Keene. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Callahan, it's 8 o'clock on a Sunday." Derek's making his move, using the church. painting me as the bad guy. Smart. She didn't sound surprised. He's establishing her credibility for the divorce. Makes you look unstable, makes her look like the victim. Judge tends to side with the scared wife. So what do? You go to mediation, you stay calm, you answer every question honestly with the pastor as witness. Her voice sharpened. And Marv, bring your phone. If your state allows one-party consent recording, use it. Every word she says, under pastoral counsel, can be used in court. That feels wrong. So does stealing a man's land. Your choice. I looked out the window. March wind was blowing, not quite winter anymore, but not spring either. The kind of in-between weather that couldn't decide what it wanted to be. I'll record it, I said. Sunday after service, I walked to the conference room. My phone was in my shirt pocket, recording app already running. Legal in our state, I checked 3 times. The room smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. Pastor Jean was there, Bible open on the table. Diane sat across from him, hands folded, eyes red like she'd been crying. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Marv, Jean gestured to a chair. Thank you for coming. I sat. The chair was uncomfortable. Metal frame with thin padding, institutional. The kind of chair designed for short, unpleasant conversations. Let's start with prayer, Jean said. We bowed our heads. He asked God for wisdom and healing and truth. I asked God to let me keep my temper for the next hour. When he finished, Jean looked at Diane. Why don't you start? Tell us what's been happening. She took a breath. Her voice came out small, fragile. I'm afraid. Marv's been acting strange, angry. He moved money out of our account without telling me. Is that true, Marv? Yes, no point lying. I moved it to protect assets during the divorce. There wouldn't be a divorce if you'd just talked to me. Diane's voice broke. Real tears now, or a good impression of them. You won't go to counseling. You won't listen. You're so cold, Marv. Like I don't even exist anymore. Jean looked at me. Marv, your response? I kept my voice level, calm. The phone in my pocket was catching every word. Diane, did you sign any documents regarding our property? Her face went still. What? Simple question. Did you sign any documents about the farm? Deeds, transfers, anything involving Derek Hollis's company? She glanced at Jean, back to me. I worked for Derek. Bookkeeping. Sometimes I handled paperwork. Did you sign a quitclaim deed? Marv, this isn't... Answer the question. Pastor Jean held up a hand. Let's keep this respectful. It's a yes or no question, Jean. I leaned forward. Diane, did Derek Hollis ask you to sign documents related to my property? Her hands twisted together. The tears had stopped. She looked trapped. He said it was just preliminary paperwork for planning purposes. Did you know he forged my signature? Silence. The furnace kicked on again. Wind rattled the window. Diane, Jean said gently, did you know about forgery? She started crying again, but different this time. Not performance crying, the kind that comes when something breaks inside you can't put back together. Derek said it would be easier this way, that Marv would fight the sale if we asked, that we deserved to start over somewhere better. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He said after April 15th, we'd be free. Free to do what? I asked. Free to leave, to sell the property, to... She stopped, looked at Jean. I didn't know about the other farms, the Hendricks place, the Widow Chin. I swear I didn't know. But you knew about the forgery, I said. She didn't answer, didn't have to. Jean's face had gone pale. He looked at me, then at Diane, then at his Bible, like it might tell him what to do. Diane, he said carefully, are you saying you were coerced? She wiped her eyes, mascara smeared on her hand. I'm saying I made a mistake. A mistake. I stood up. The chair scraped against linoleum, too loud in the small room. You conspired to steal my family's land. You took money, you helped a con man forge documents. That's not a mistake, Diane. That's a choice. Marv, Jean started. No. I looked at him. Jean, I came here in good faith. I answered honestly. She just confessed to conspiracy and fraud in front of a witness. I pulled the phone from my pocket, held it up, and I recorded every word, one-party consent, completely legal. Diane's face went white. You recorded this? Jean sounded shocked. You said you wanted truth. There it is. I headed for the door. Gene, I'll need a transcript of this meeting. My attorney will contact you. Marv, wait. I stopped at the door, looked back at Diane one last time. She looked small, broken, nothing like the woman I'd married 42 years ago. Derek's desperate, I said. He has gambling debts, loan sharks. He needed my land to cover what he owes, and you helped him. My voice stayed steady, quiet. That's the truth you wanted to mediate, Gene. That's what an open heart gets you. I walked out. Behind me, Diane started crying again. The recording was 63 minutes long. Patricia Keene said it was the best evidence she'd ever heard. Ruby came to the workshop on Monday evening. I was sharpening tools I didn't need to sharpen, just keeping my hands busy. The rasp made a rhythm against metal, steady and predictable, the kind of sound that helped me think. She stood in the doorway, backlit by the porch light. Didn't come in right away, just watched me work. Dad, I kept filing. Yeah. Patricia called me, said the recording is solid, said Derek's facing felony charges, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. She paused. Said Mom might too. My hand stopped moving. The workshop went quiet except for the heater and the wind outside. April wind now, warmer, carrying the smell of thawing earth and coming rain. Might, I said, if the DA decides she was an accomplice instead of a victim. Ruby came inside, closed the door behind her. Patricia says it depends on what you want. You're the plaintiff. You have influence. I set down the file, looked at the blade I'd been sharpening, a hay knife my grandfather used, old carbon steel that held an edge forever if you treated it right. What do you want me to say? Ruby sat on the workbench, legs dangling. She looked small there, the way she used to when she was 10 and would come out here to watch me fix things. I want you to tell me this is worth it. Her voice cracked. That destroying Mom publicly is worth keeping the land. I'm not destroying her. She destroyed herself. Dad. She looked at me with eyes too old for her face. If you go through with the auction plan, projecting those texts, playing that recording in front of 200 people, Mom doesn't come back from that. Neither does our family. Our family ended when she signed that deed. No. Ruby's voice got hard. Our family ends when you decide revenge matters more than mercy. The words hit like a fist. I turned away, pretended to organize wrenches that didn't need organizing. She tried to take everything, I said, and you're going to take everything she has left. Her reputation, her dignity, maybe her freedom. Ruby slid off the workbench. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve consequences. I'm asking if you can live with being the one who delivers them. Outside, the wind picked up. I could hear it in the apple trees, new leaves rustling, the sound of spring trying to happen. 3 generations, I said quietly. Your great-grandfather bought this land with money he saved for 8 years. Your grandfather kept it through drought and depression. Your father... I stopped. Couldn't finish. Your father what, Dad? Your father protected it? Your father fought for it? She came around to face me. Or your father became so afraid of losing it that he lost himself instead? The workshop felt too small suddenly, too warm. I couldn't breathe right. What do you want me to do, Ruby? Let him win? Let Derek Hollis walk away after trying to steal 40 acres with a forged signature? No, her voice softened. I want you to win without becoming him. We stood there in the quiet. The heater clicked off. Somewhere outside, a dog was barking. If I don't go public, I said, if I settle quietly, you still get the land. Patricia says so. Derek still faces charges. Mom still loses the marriage. Ruby put her hand on my arm. But you get to be the man Grandpa raised, the one who knows when to stop. I looked at the deed ledger on the shelf. 3 generations of names written in different hands. My grandfather's careful script, my father's blocky printing, my own cursive getting shakier with age, and space left for Ruby's name. Some roots die so others can grow, I said. I remember, you told me that in March. She squeezed my arm. But Dad, you get to choose which roots. I didn't answer, couldn't. Just stood there with my daughter's hand on my arm and my grandfather's tools on the wall and the weight of 40 acres pressing down like gravity. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and doing are different things. By the end of April, everything was ready. Patricia filed all the paperwork. Fraud charges, forgery, alienation of affection, civil suit for damages. The DA opened an investigation. Derek's loan officer got a copy of the evidence and pulled funding. April 15th came and went. The loan collapsed. Clay confirmed Derek's bank was foreclosing on his office building. Hidden Creek development was done. The county farm equipment auction was scheduled for May 3rd, same as every year. I'd been the auctioneer for 15 years. Everyone expected me to take the podium. Patricia had prepared everything, blown up copies of the texts, audio from the church mediation, timeline of Derek's previous fraud cases, a presentation that would destroy him in front of the entire county. Ruby's question kept echoing. Can you live with being the one who delivers them? I sat in the workshop the night before the auction. The projector was loaded, the evidence was ready. 200 people would show up tomorrow expecting equipment and getting truth instead. The gavel sat on my workbench. 6 ounces of turned oak, handle worn smooth by 15 years of use. I picked it up, felt the weight. Not heavy enough to hurt anyone, but heavy enough to make a sound they'd remember. I called Patricia. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Callahan, everything set for tomorrow? I need you to do something, I said. Contact the DA. Tell them Diane cooperates fully. She gets full immunity. No charges. Silence on the line. Marv. She testifies against Derek. Provides bank records. Everything you need to put him away. My voice stayed steady. But she walks free. That's the deal. You're sure? I looked at Ruby's thermos on the shelf, at the deed ledger, at the space where her name would go. I'm sure. All right. Patricia's voice changed, warmer. And the auction? Still happening. Derek still gets exposed. I set down the gavel. But Diane's name stays out of it, just his. That's mercy, Marv. No, I said. That's choosing which roots die. I hung up. Outside, April rain was starting to fall, soft and steady, the kind that makes things grow. May 3rd dawned clear and warm, real spring finally, the kind that makes you believe winter's actually over. I drove to the auction barn at 8, 2 hours before start time. The gravel lot was already filling with trucks, farmers comparing equipment, dealers sizing up inventory, townspeople who came every year because it was tradition. The barn smelled like diesel and hay and coffee from the concession stand. Good smells, honest smells. Clay met me at the podium. He was wearing his old sheriff's jacket, the leather one that had seen better days. In his hand, a folded piece of paper. Warrant, he said quietly. Signed yesterday. Judge agreed to wait until after your announcement. He here? Back row, left side. Can't miss him. He's the one sweating in a 60-degree barn. I looked. Derek Hollis sat alone, wearing a suit too expensive for a farm auction. His leg bounced. Kept checking his phone. Next to him, empty seats. Nobody wanted to sit close. 3 rows up, I saw Diane. She was alone too. She didn't look at Derek, didn't look at me, just stared at her hands. And there, in the 5th row center, Ruby, with Lorna on one side and Pastor Jean on the other. Ruby caught my eye, nodded once. The equipment was lined up outside. Tractors, hay balers, seeders, the machinery of working life. 200 people filed in, more than usual. Word had spread. At 10 o'clock, I took the podium. The gavel felt light in my hand. I rapped it once. The barn went quiet. Morning, folks. Welcome to the annual spring equipment auction. My voice carried, 15 years of practice, auctioneer's rhythm built into muscle memory. Before we start on the machinery, I've got one special lot, non-standard, but important. Murmurs in the crowd. Someone coughed. A baby cried in the back. Lot number 1, I said. The truth about Hidden Creek development. The projector flickered on behind me. Ruby had set it up that morning. She was good with technology I'd never understand. The first image appeared. A text message blown up 6 feet tall. April 15th, baby. Then it's ours. All of it. The crowd went silent. You could hear the wind outside, the creak of the old barn settling. Last January, I discovered my wife was having an affair. My voice stayed steady. The auctioneer's cadence took over. Clear, measured, inevitable. That was painful, but it wasn't criminal. Next slide, the forged quit-claim deed, my signature, or something close to it. This is criminal. That's my signature on a document I never signed. My wife's employer, Derek Hollis, forged it to steal 40 acres my family's worked for 3 generations. The crowd erupted. Gasps, shouts, chairs scraping. I saw Lorna's hand go to her mouth. Pastor Jean's face went pale. Derek stood up. This is slander. You can't... Sit down, Mr. Hollis. Clay's voice cut through the noise. He'd moved to the aisle, blocking Derek's exit. Or leave. Your choice. Derek sat. Next slide. County records, the Hendricks farm, Morrison Place. Widow Chin's property. 3 families, I said. 3 forged deeds, 3 foreclosures, all of them April 15th, all of them engineered by the same man. I looked directly at Derek. My farm was supposed to be number 4. I clicked through the evidence. Bank statements showing payments to Diane, Bryce Hollis's sworn testimony, timeline of Derek's development scheme, the loan that collapsed when the bank discovered fraud. The crowd wasn't murmuring anymore. They were angry. I could feel it rising like heat. This man seduced my wife to gain access to my property. He paid her $15,000. He forged legal documents. He did it before, and he'd do it again. My hand tightened on the gavel. But not in this county. Not to our farms. Not anymore. I brought the gavel down. The crack echoed through the barn. Mr. Hollis, this auction is concluded. Your business is done. Clay moved down the aisle. 2 deputies followed. I hadn't even seen them come in. Derek Hollis, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and attempted theft by deception. Derek tried to run, made it 3 steps before Clay caught his arm. The crowd parted. No one helped him. No one said a word. They cuffed him right there in the center aisle, read him his rights while 200 people watched. His face was red, sweat running down his collar despite the cool morning. As they walked him past, he looked at me, pure hate in his eyes. I looked back, didn't say a word, didn't have to. The deputies took him out, the barn door closed. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone in the back started clapping, Lorna. Then Ruby. Then Pastor Jean. Then the whole barn, 200 people standing, applauding, the sound rolling like thunder. I stood at the podium with the gavel in my hand, and tears I didn't expect burning in my eyes. Afterward, in the parking lot, Diane approached me, slow, uncertain steps. People gave her space. Not kindness, just distance. Marv, I waited. The DA called me yesterday, said you arranged immunity if I testified. Her voice was barely audible over the parking lot noise. Why? I looked at her, really looked. She'd lost more weight. Her face was hollow, older. The woman I married was in there somewhere, buried under bad choices and worse regrets. Because Ruby asked me to choose which roots die, I said. And you're still her mother. Her eyes filled. I'm so sorry. I know. And I did. I could see it in every line of her face, every tremor in her hands. But sorry doesn't fix this, Diane. Sorry doesn't give back 42 years. I know. We stood there in the spring sun. Around us, people were loading equipment, shaking hands, moving forward with their lives. The auction was over. The business was done. Where will you go? I asked. My sister's, Arizona. She has a bookkeeping firm, real bookkeeping this time. Diane tried to smile, failed. I signed the divorce papers this morning. No contest. The land is yours, all of it. It was always mine. Yes. She looked toward the barn, then back at me. For what it's worth, Derek lied about everything. The travel, the freedom, the better life. He just needed the land. I was too stupid and scared to see it. You weren't stupid. You were lonely. I said it without anger, just fact. And I didn't notice until it was too late. Her hand moved toward mine, then stopped, fell back to her side. Goodbye, Marv. Goodbye, Diane. She walked to her car, the same sedan she'd driven for 10 years, packed now with boxes and suitcases, drove out of the parking lot heading west. I watched until she was gone. Ruby came up beside me, put her arm through mine. You okay, Dad? I thought about it, really thought about it. Yeah, I said. I think I am. The land was secure. Derek was arrested. Diane was gone, but free. And my daughter was standing next to me in the spring sunshine, ready to carry forward what 3 generations had built. The auction was over, but the farm would keep going. That was enough. 30 days later, the divorce was final. The courthouse was the same one where I'd registered the farm's deed transfer from my father 28 years ago. Same marble floors, same echo when you walked, same smell of old paper and floor wax. Ruby sat beside me in the courtroom. Clay was in the back, moral support in a leather jacket. Diane sat with her attorney on the other side, close enough to see, far enough that we didn't have to speak. The judge was a woman in her 60s, reading glasses perched on her nose. She reviewed the settlement without emotion. Mrs. Callahan relinquishes all claim to the property known as Callahan Farm, 40 acres, in exchange for 50% of retirement accounts and no alimony obligation. She looked up. Is this agreed? Yes, Your Honor, Diane's attorney said. Yes, Your Honor. Patricia said. The judge signed. The gavel came down, softer than mine, more final. Divorce granted. That was it. 42 years reduced to a signature and a sound. We stood. Diane gathered her papers. For a moment, our eyes met across the courtroom. She nodded once. I nodded back. Then she walked out. Didn't look back. Ruby squeezed my hand. You okay? Getting there. Outside, the June sun was warm, real summer coming. Clay was waiting on the courthouse steps, holding 2 cups of coffee from the diner. Figured you could use this. I took the cup. It was hot enough to burn, strong enough to strip paint. Perfect. Derek's trial is set for August, Clay said. DA says it's open and shut. Bryce's testimony, Diane's cooperation, your evidence. He's looking at 5 to 10 years. Good. We stood there drinking coffee, watching people go about their ordinary lives. A young couple with a baby carriage. An old man feeding pigeons. Traffic moving down Main Street like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Ruby came out of the courthouse carrying the final decree. She held it up to the light like it was fragile. It's over, she said. Yeah, I said. It is. Clay raised his coffee cup. To surviving. We tapped paper cups together, drank to endings and beginnings and everything in between. Now what? Ruby asked. I looked at my daughter, 38 years old, divorced herself, CPA credentials she'd earned the hard way, holding a piece of paper that said her parents' marriage was done. Now we go home, I said. And you teach me about spreadsheets while I teach you about cedars. She smiled, first real smile I'd seen in months. Deal. June 10th, Ruby moved back to the farm. She didn't bring much, some clothes, her laptop, boxes of books that smelled like her apartment in town. We set her up in her old bedroom, the one with the window facing the apple orchard. That Saturday, we planted a garden. Ruby had drawn up plans like she was filing taxes, rows measured precisely, crops rotated scientifically, a spreadsheet for watering schedules. I showed her how my grandfather used to do it, string and stakes and instinct. We compromised. Her system, my seeds. The garden went where Derek's subdivision stakes had been. Ruby pulled them out herself, one by one, and stacked them by the burn pile. Good riddance, she said. We worked all morning. The soil was warm and soft, easy to turn. It smelled like earth and possibility and the manure we'd spread in April. Ruby's hands were pale and soft from office work, but she didn't complain when blisters formed. Tomatoes here? She asked. Tomatoes there? Beans climb, remember? They need the fence. Right. She planted beans. I planted squash. We worked in comfortable silence, the kind you can only have with people who know you all the way through. Around noon, we broke for lunch, sat on the porch with sandwiches and lemonade, watching the garden take shape. Dad? Ruby's voice was quiet. Yeah? Do you miss her? I thought about it, really thought, looked out at 40 acres of land that had almost been swimming pools and subdivisions. I miss who I thought she was, I said, but I'm grateful for who's here now. Ruby leaned her head on my shoulder, just for a moment, then sat up, took a bite of her sandwich, went back to being practical. We should get back to it. Those bean seeds won't plant themselves. No, ma'am, they won't. We worked until the sun started setting. By evening, the whole garden was in. Tomatoes, beans, squash, sunflowers along the fence. Ruby's spreadsheet said we'd done it right. My grandfather's ghost probably approved. I stood at the workshop door that night, same as I had every Saturday for 30 years, but different now. Ruby was in the house making dinner. I could see the kitchen light, smell something cooking, hear music playing. Not alone anymore. I picked up the deed ledger from the shelf, opened it to the last page. 3 generations of names. Walter Callahan, 1942-1978, James Callahan, 1978 to 1997, Marvin Callahan, 1997. I picked up a pen, added one more line. Ruby Ann Callahan, 2025, not pending anymore, not someday, now. The land doesn't care who fought for it, it just keeps growing, and now, so would we. Late June, I was in the workshop alone. Saturday morning, same as always. Coffee in the thermos, tools on the bench, the old tractor waiting for its weekly check. But Ruby's laughter came through the open door. She was making breakfast in the house, singing along to something on the radio. Terrible voice. Beautiful sound. I ran my hand over the tractor hood. 80 years old, this machine. My grandfather's sweat was in the metal, my father's too, and mine. Now Ruby was learning its quirks, its temperament, the way you had to coax the engine on cold mornings, some things you don't replace. You maintain them. People asked me later if I won. I told them I kept the land. That's not the same as winning. I lost a marriage, lost 42 years of shared history. The woman I loved became someone I didn't recognize. And maybe I became someone she couldn't love anymore. There's no victory in that, just survival. But Ruby came home. The apple blossoms dropped their petals, and the fruit started forming, small and green and full of next year's seeds. The garden she planted was already sprouting, tomato plants reaching for the sun, bean vines climbing the fence, sunflowers taller than my knee, life where Derek wanted concrete, green where he planned swimming pools. That morning, I updated the deed ledger one last time, wrote in the margin, small letters, some battles you fight not because you'll be whole after, but because the people who come after you deserve ground to stand on. Ruby called from the porch. Dad, breakfast. I closed the ledger, put it back on the shelf next to my grandfather's tools, the hay knife, the hand plane, the level that still read true after 90 years, walked toward the house, didn't look back. The land doesn't care who fought for it, who bled for it, who almost lost it to a man with a fake smile and a forged signature. It just keeps growing, and that's enough.